Did you ever carry your homework in a trapper keeper covered with rainbows, dolphins, and bright colors?
Did you ever trade stickers that were full of neon colored cheetahs, magical unicorns, and adorable puppies and kittens?
If you remember watching a young Mila Kunis showcase an array of school supplies and telling us you gotta have it, you might be a Xennial and a Lisa Frank fan. Hi, I'm Danny.
And I'm Katie. Welcome to Generation in Between, a Xennial podcast where we remember, revisit, and sometimes relearn, and sometimes get our heart broken.
Oh, for real.
All kinds of things from our 80s childhoods and 90s teen young adulthoods.
Yep. And today, if you didn't guess by our intro, we are talking about Lisa Frank again.
Yes.
We actually delved into the history of Lisa Frank, the woman and the company, because let's be clear, those are two different things that are very interlaced, obviously. We talked about it way back in our second episode last year on school supplies.
Yes.
So go check it out if you haven't listened to it yet. But today we're chatting about her again, specifically because of the recent documentary that was released on Amazon Prime called Glitter and Greed. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see I am dressed in theme wear. I have a neon leopard onesie that a friend gave to me for my birthday that I've actually surprisingly worn many times.
You would think you wouldn't have much use for it, and yet
I actually have slept in this too. I even
Okay.
have a tail, everyone. You'll see video on our socials, but because I was so cold and I came to bed and Troy was like, "Are you serious?" Yes.
You're like, I know I don't look serious, but I'm very serious.
Being married to me is a party, everybody. But anyway, before we dive into all that, we're going to chat about what we did last weekend, which is Katie's theme wear for today.
Yes.
She has on a special sweatshirt. So Katie, tell everyone.
For the YouTubers, I'm trying to show you. I am wearing a really awesome long sleeve comfy tee or sweatshirt from Podfest, and it says powered by coffee and content.
Love.
And then which sleeve is it?
That
this
one.
sleeve says podcaster on the sleeve. So if you're on there,
hashtag podcaster.
Podcaster.
I don't think we used that hashtag. Ooh, guess I need to do that.
I think you did.
Did I?
Uh-huh.
Oh, all right. Great.
Pretty sure. But we'll double check after this because I could be wrong. But yes, we went to Podfest in Orlando. We were there Friday, stayed the night, and then we were there Saturday. Went to all sorts of like back-to-back sessions.
Yeah.
Met amazing people. Basically just kind of encouraged us to keep going the path we're going, get more video out there. So either you're welcome or I'm sorry, but like more video content is coming your way. Things like just making more shorts of what we record, more reels, that sort of thing, along with continuing to improve our audio and our content and all the things. So,
I mean, obviously we're super professional over here.
Clearly.
But it was a good time. I mean, we went to lots of sessions. Now, Podfest itself actually started Thursday.
Right.
And went through Sunday, but we money wise, we couldn't, and we're, it's only an hour from us. We're pretty local. People were flying in from all over. I mean, there were people from other countries even. But shout out to all the fun people we met. We met some, and I'm trying to remember all their names, and now I'm blanking.
I kind of don't want to say anything because I think I'll forget one person and then I'll feel really bad.
But if we met you at Podfest, hey, and thanks for actually listening to us. We're I have all of y'all's podcasts or upcoming podcasts on my list because some of y'all have not launched yet, and we can't wait to hear it and support you. And if you want to come on our show, give us a Xennial topic that you are an expert on, and you can come on.
You can,
or if you're just a Xennial.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really fun.
It was. And I'm jealous because they had this cool thing in the like the expo hall where you could buy stuff, and it was like you could pick your certain piece of merch, like a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, they had hats, and then get whatever you want printed on it. And we waited too long. It was like an hour before they closed on the second day. And we went in there and I saw the sweatshirt Katie has on because I don't like hoodies. Like I'm weird. Like I don't like the hood in the back. It's just annoying. And plus when I wear sweatshirts, like when I'm training clients, the hood gets in the way and like floppy. And anyway.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Thanks. But we saw this cute sweatshirt she's wearing and I was like, oh, I want one. But they were sold out of short people sizes.
They didn't even have medium.
I know.
You would have had to get a large.
I like to wear my sweatshirts big anyway, but the large was like so long. It was like a dress.
It's unisex too. isn't it? Yeah. So it's like a large men's, which for me is big and baggy and kind of fun, but I'm, almost 5'8". So
yeah,
it's
and
fine.
I'm 5'2". So you can imagine
it wasn't going to work.
It was like I was playing dress up in my dad's shirt.
Yeah, it was a bummer, but we'll get you one next year.
Sad. So I walk in today, I was like, well, I'm jealous. It's fine. It's fine. Everyone's fine.
I mean, you are in the neon leopard print onesie. So
I do love
you
this
shouldn't
onesie.
be jealous.
And shout out to I know 800 Sarahs, but my friend Sarah, who lives in Virginia, bought me this for my birthday. Was it last year or year before? Anyway, Sarah, love you. Thank you. I think of you every time I wear it. You are the best.
And she wears it a lot.
I really do.
Do we quickly let's save it for the end. If you stick around to the end, because I want to get into Lisa Frank for the people that don't know us and have tuned in for Lisa Frank. But we do want to talk about something we watched in our hotel room. But we'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait till the end.
We'll save that for the end. So if you're done listening to Lisa Frank and don't want to hear that story, you'll be able to click out.
All right, so
let's do it.
Let's go. Why don't you tell everybody the official summary of Glitter and Greed, the Lisa Frank story that you can find on Amazon Prime.
Yes. So it's a 4-part documentary event that penetrates the neon-hued world of Lisa Frank Inc., a brand that defined girlhood for a generation of Americans only to seemingly disappear overnight. Behind the rainbows and psychedelic illustrations, we unravel a nostalgia-soaked, stranger-than-fiction tale that takes us into the hidden world that has been lurking at the heart of the company for decades. Just to be clear, that's Amazon Prime's summary, or the documentarian's summary, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's some gender-coded stuff in there that is probably not quite right. But that is the summary of what we're about to talk about today. Yeah, so let's get into it.
So when I first started watching, so there's 4 episodes, right? Okay, so I took notes in my little Care Bear notebook that y'all may have seen in our reels.
I'm like, what notebook is this? It says, when things change inside you, things change around you.
Katie's so inspirational, and I'm like, Care Bear tabs.
I'm like, which inspirational journal shall I write in today?
It's this one. It's so funny because I have so many notebooks and stuff that I use for random shit, and Katie literally is like a big journaler. She tries so hard to get me to be one, and I'm already failing. Like the one you gave me, I'm just supposed to write in once a week.
Yeah, once a week.
Yeah, I'm failing already.
That's okay. You can't fail. I actually missed that one last week. Like I missed the day completely.
Anyways, but don't worry because notebooks are being used for things like notes on Lisa Frank docs. So
correct.
The way we did this, we just took notes. It's not like our nostalgic or problematic where we have like little emojis.
Yeah.
But so the first episode, they kind of talked about all the stuff we talked about in our episode
in our school supply one. And we talked about Lisa Frank on that. I went back probably only about 15 minutes of that episode.
Really?
It's 15 or maybe 20.
I like did such a big deep dive into that research. It felt like it was so much longer.
It felt long.
So like while I was watching that first episode, I was like, I wrote down, we were pioneers.
We were already talking about this. Although to be fair, they were probably making this long before our episode aired. But yes.
I know.
But yes, you're right. Well, so it is 4 parts. So let's just quickly say the first part is really just laying the foundation.
Yeah.
Literally who the woman is, where she's from, her training, her beginning businesses,
how she got the idea.
How she got the idea. Yeah. And kind of setting it up. Then it does, that first episode, tie into her later husband, who's not Frank, which is what we've been calling him because we couldn't remember his name. Instead, the very memorable James Green. And kind of starts to scratch the surface on that relationship, including his involvement at Lisa Frank Inc.
Right.
That was the first episode. So
yeah. And then the third one, it was one of her sons, Hunter. And then the fourth one was like how she kind of like fucked a lot of people over.
How a lot of people have,
So I had a lot of notes.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know. Okay, some of this I'm like, what was I talking about?
Yeah.
I wrote down in quotation marks, wild cats with patterns, first 5 minutes of doc.
Yeah.
What was I talking about?
I mean, they just
did they say that?
They referenced it. Yeah, wild cats with patterns.
I don't know why I wrote that down.
Yeah, they did. They totally did.
I guess because I was like, yes, wildcats with That's probably what it was.
I'm
like trying to go dig back through my head of like, what was the narrative in my head? That's probably what it was. I was probably going, yes. Okay.
It was what I really liked about the very beginning of the series. So 2 parts here. Before the intro music plays, which I want to talk about in a second. But before that, they do kind of just like these snippets of all these different people sort of saying who Lisa Frank is. And it's people who are like, it had like Chrissy Teigen on there who was like, when you think of the 90s, what do you wish you could get back? Or what do you miss the most? And she says, Lisa Frank, meaning the design stuff, not the person. Well, I don't know, but probably not. But then intertwined are people saying not nice things about her. So it's already this very big juxtaposition, and you're feeling the nostalgia for all the images that are in front of you, but then you're seeing people who are like in tears or like I was sued by her or whatever right away.
Oh yeah.
So I thought they set that up really good.
Well, it's like, because Lisa Frank, Katie and I, if you're new here, we rewatch things from the 80s and 90s, and we call that our nostalgic or problematic series. But that's exactly what Lisa Frank is. She is nostalgic and problematic, like her and her company.
Oh, definitely.
And it's a weird balance, which I think the documentary does well at like showing both sides of things. And it makes you be like, okay, but can I still hold the nostalgia even at the same time as recognizing the problems? It's weird.
Yeah, I will say, not that there's a whole lot of her stuff you can buy anymore. It's more like she licenses it out. I will not buy anything Lisa Frank again after watching this. I will not give that company any more money. I will not.
And now look at me.
I know, it's okay. You can.
I'm like,
I will not.
I don't. To be fair though, like this is not Lisa Frank what I'm wearing.
It's not.
There's so many copycat.
Totally. I'll buy the copycats. I love the aesthetic. Like I mean, freaking look at our backdrop.
Again, like she does not own this aesthetic, which we'll talk about later.
Oh yeah.
But so I mean, the only thing I bought that was certified Lisa Frank was those nail wraps, remember? Yeah. And they sucked. They were shitty.
They weren't good.
But anyway, okay. So let's just talk. So I love that. Speaking of that, I love that the whole way the documentarian did the whole aesthetic through like with the little cartoony like clips. I love that.
That was fun. It was like little stop motion animation, and it was bright colors, and in some cases it would be like an illustrated person with the person's like photo face stuck on it. It was really cool.
I love that.
It was very throwbackish, but done modernly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was, you could tell the technology was modern.
Yeah. But I also, the first gal who talks in the documentary wrote that Jezebel article, and that we used that in our research for, well, I did, because I did the research for that one, and we put it in the episode. And I was like, when they started talking about the article, I was like, oh
yeah, that was her.
Hello, I used that.
Yeah.
But okay, this is just like totally dumb. When they were showing some of the old designs, I was like so excited. I loved the artwork.
It was
great.
Those
those artists are so talented.
So good.
Oh my God. I love when they showed some of their original art too. But my favorite that I saw in the first episode was the one they did of Elephant John. That was supposed to be like Elton John.
I don't think I was ever aware of that until this documentary, and I was in love with it.
I need that in my life.
Yeah, Elephant John was amazing. Yeah, I loved that too. And so then the intro music to each one was more...
Oh yeah, talk about that.
It wasn't stop motion, it was live video, but it had this very dark aesthetic where it had like unicorns and rainbows and stuff, and then by the end of, and this sort of suspenseful music, and by the end of the, I don't know, 30 to 45 second intro music, everything was crashing and breaking. They weren't stickers, it was like 3D objects that were glass, at least in the intro, and I thought that was really well done.
Good.
It was like good. Really good.
It was good. But anyway, y'all don't need our like film
but you should see it. See it.
We're talking about this bullshit.
So again, in the first episode, they do set the stage for like, who is she? So we should talk about that for a minute, right? They talk about
well, do we want to go into all that? Because we already did that in an episode.
We did, but if people are just found us for this, I figured just a quick gloss over.
Okay, go.
Well, and also I think at least how she got started as an artist will inform like what we're talking about later in the documentary.
Well, that's what I was like. Do we talk about it again, or we just say y'all go check out our other episode? Because I mean,
like, you could. I mean, the bottom line is, and you'll see as we go along, she has a history of, I guess it's allegedly, but kind of stealing other people's ideas.
Oh, well, yeah.
And it goes way back.
True. Because,
to her college
age.
Go
ahead. Yeah.
So she's kind of started, I guess it was when she was in college. Your research for the other episode was better on this part because it was more in depth, and they kind of glossed over it in the documentary. I felt like they mentioned it and kept going, which was kind of odd. But she would go to reservations, like indigenous reservations. Yeah, she was in New Mexico. Arizona. I think it was Arizona. And she would buy indigenous art and then bring it back and either tweak it or just sell it as is and mark it up and resell it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even her art, and that's kind of how she started.
And then she made jewelry and called it Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers, which I did think it was funny. Her friend from college was one of the people, and they were like, do you know why she called it Sticky Fingers? He said, I guess because she always had glue on her fingers.
Nah.
I mean, I don't know. But so I mean, she tends to steal ideas from people. So we'll just keep that in mind as we go on.
And we did talk about that in depth.
We did
in our past episode.
Big time.
You can find it. It's pretty easy.
Find it. It's easy. I thought it was funny too when you said the Elephant John. I wrote down that I really liked the punk poodle and
I knew you would.
Cleocatra.
Yes, Cleocatra.
Oh my god, they were so cute. So once they start talking about how she actually launched her actual Lisa Frank ink.
Yeah.
And then she brings in James Green. Who is this? I will say he's clearly a talented artist.
Oh no, he is talented. And I will say he did. And we'll talk about, we'll just do it now. He did come on the documentary. At least Lisa Frank is not on this documentary at all. She just gave this dumb generic statement. But that lines up with her from the past. She was never very into being in the public eye like that. And I don't know why. I don't know if she had social anxiety or
I didn't know what she looked like till this documentary. I'd never looked her up.
I did just from our research before, but like there's not a lot. Well, and before this documentary, it was even harder to find stuff because she didn't really do a lot of interviews. Like she had that one that they kept referencing, but that's one of the only ones she did. Even in her big heyday. But oh god, when he came on, I'm like, okay, here we go. And I went into it already knowing he was a dick.
Right.
But then he presented himself as a dick instantly.
Yes.
Well, when people were talking about him, okay, like they had video of him at the wedding too, like did you pick up on that? Like his
body language
like the way he was talking to people, not just her. I was like, because all I wrote down was yuck, video of him at the wedding.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things he said when he came on, I don't know if I wrote it down, but he said Lisa Frank. I am Lisa Frank.
Oh yeah, he said that in the second part.
That was the second part. Okay.
Or he said, I am the documentary or something like that.
Yeah, a Lisa Frank documentary. I am the documentary. Something like that. So I will say over the arch of the 4 episodes, I found him a little more sympathetic as it went on. Not excusing the way he treated people because that was not it. But I was a little more sympathetic to the art/company ownership stuff.
Yeah.
As the documentary went on, because despite his attitude and everything else, he really did build the brand. And then when they got divorced, he got none of it.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
I just felt like, and as an artist, I could see just in those moments, he seemed a little more human to me. You could see the sadness in his eyes. I think that one of the documentary producers asked, do you wish you still had some of that, your original artwork? Yeah. And he looked like heartbroken. Yeah. He was like, yeah, of course. Like, I wish I had my art, and you really could kind of just see. And then, of course, there's family dynamic stuff from when they get divorced. That's incredibly sad. So anyway, I found him to be a little more sympathetic as it went on, especially as we start to kind of understand the way that Lisa Frank is. I think when he was first like, oh, it's all me, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God, poor Lisa Frank, because this guy's just mansplaining, which he was doing.
Which he did. Well, and he was very just, I don't know. Well, nobody, like we always say, nobody is just one thing, right?
True.
So like nobody is just all bad, all good. There's lots of different levels here. Like, and you can be a shitty person at work and be a great person at home, or vice versa.
Correct.
Like I've known people who their coworkers love them, think they're amazing, but they're absolutely awful in their home life.
Of course.
So, that's just an example. So he's not like, I don't know. I still don't like him very much, but I don't really like her very much either.
I think that's my point.
So
like I started to be like, well, she's pretty terrible too.
And
so.
toxic, I don't know. I feel like most people at our age have had a toxic relationship at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's just in some of various levels. Sometimes they're absolutely really terrible, sometimes they're not. But when you are with a toxic person, it brings out all your toxic things too.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's true. I've definitely known people in my life like that as well.
Yeah.
Where they act totally, it's almost like it lives in them, but it's dormant. But then with the right other person, it's the catalyst that triggers it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in college, I had a not great relationship for a long time. And he was toxic, but I was toxic with him. Like,
oh, yeah.
So, like,
too.
I'm not just saying it was all him. I mean, he did some things that were pretty inexcusable, but I did too. Like, I mean, we screamed at each other. I mean, it was bad. So, like, I feel like negative energy pulls out negative energy. And so, like, anyway, but so James Green, but speaking of that, the shit he did to those coworkers, and we talked about this on our episode, that dumb newsletter he had.
Frankly speaking,
which
was
patriarchy,
company,
gross. He was so gross, and all his little rules and stuff. And then I felt so bad about that one lady who was like, "Oh, I have to leave early." And then he was like, then he would padlock the door because she was trying to like get to an appointment for a kid or something like that.
Yeah.
And he would padlock the door so people couldn't leave.
And then the one person who they were just expected to work late, but he hadn't brought in food with him, and he was diabetic.
Right. Well,
so he stayed an hour. It was like 6.
Yeah.
And he tried to leave, and then he got fired. Not that night, but like the next day or something. And they deny it. Well, we'll get into
that. But
yeah.
But I do think, I think that speaks volumes. Now, granted, this documentary is just some sides of the story. Right. But when you have that many people who worked at a company that felt a way, but it was interesting because some people, even though it was problematic, they said, I loved working there. It was, even though it was a shit show.
Right.
It was a great whatever. But anyway.
I think there could be two sides to that because as an artist, it was probably very fulfilling.
Well, and your art was part of something culturally iconic.
Correct.
Which will never happen again for them, I'm sure.
Right. And so there's that. But then the unfortunate downside, there was the man on there, I think he worked there for 4 years, who was saying he'd driven home contemplating taking his own life. Oh my God,
yes.
Because it was so toxic, and he and also just the discrepancy in wealth too. They didn't delve too far into it, but at least a few of the people they interviewed hinted at the pay not being great. Yeah. Depending what your position was.
Yeah.
The one artist, and he shared a few things that he'd done. And he said that, he was living paycheck to paycheck, and
while the company itself was banging, and that's so the shitty part. And that's what I can't stand about capitalism.
Right.
Is that companies make all this fucking money, but can't pay their employees jack shit. So it's like, you're not getting compensated. Who's getting all the benefits? It's all the bigwigs and top that are already making.
Well, and he gave the example that everyone at the company was invited to their wedding.
Oh, right.
And he's sitting here not sure how he can buy Christmas gifts for his kids.
And then all this nonsense.
There's fireworks and all this craziness, what did you think about her? And I know I'm blurring episode lines here, but what did you think about her wedding dress look?
I don't even remember it.
She had one of those wide-brimmed white hats with neon flowers.
Oh, yeah.
And then the veil had neon flowers in it.
I guess it didn't stick out to me. All I wrote down was, oh my God, the baby cradle.
Oh, yeah. And that was hand-painted by 2 of their employees.
I know.
Yeah.
It was wicked awesome.
It was really cool. It was all sorts of colorful, and it was really, really beautiful.
Yeah. But also, let me just say, so I don't remember her wedding dress. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was an 80s wedding dress.
It was. Her hair was very big underneath it. Yeah.
I think I was more focused on him and his nonsense.
True. Yeah.
But, let's just say this, because this was back in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. A lot of stuff that happened at that company companies could not get away with now.
No, not even remotely. Not
Like,
even close.
thank God. So,
Yeah.
like, I was able to see a little bit of evolution there with
Yeah.
like HR stuff.
Mhm.
Well,
It
I was
still
about to say,
happens,
I was
but
like, I mean,
well, and also just like the burden of proof is easier now.
oh, that's true.
Meaning everything from being able to
Right.
record what someone's saying secretly on a cell phone to email trails, text
Yeah,
trails.
facts.
Whereas a lot of this stuff, of course, as it got further into the 90s and the 2000s, there was more email and things like that. But it's just people saying they said this,
Right.
they did this,
Right.
and again, the amount of people saying that makes you like, okay, well, there's something there. And then we still have physical copies of Frankly Speaking, the company newsletter that was horrible,
So bad.
but I think proving this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and it's good because I feel like people in power are aware of that too.
Right.
And they know they have to kind of walk the line because somebody's going to call them out for it and have proof if they don't.
Unless you're in a super high office of authority and where you get away with all kinds of
I'm
bullshit.
not saying people
Sorry,
still
it's
don't,
been a week,
but
guys.
it's harder. It's been a week.
It's been a week, whatever. And I'm not going to go down that road because y'all have listened to us long enough. You know where we stand.
Yeah.
And you know what we're standing up for these days.
Yep.
Anyway, we're talking about Lisa Frank and her husband's bullshit and her bullshit. So one thing about him that I thought was an interesting idea that he said, and somebody else said it was his idea, so I'm gonna give him credit for it, where he said the idea where he had the characters having eye contact with the buyer. I never realized that, but I'm like, oh, that's genius.
Yeah,
it's genius because they do, and that is why you love them, because it's like their little neon eyes are looking at
and
your
they're
soul,
big,
and they're big,
yeah,
like cute little like Furbies and their big eyes,
yeah,
and like the Funko Pops and all
yeah.
that.
And someone else said it was his idea, that phrase, collect them all.
Oh,
did you see that? Like when this was when it was
that
still,
just always makes me think of Pokemon,
right?
Yeah,
but they showed on the screen, this was for stickers.
Right, stickers, the stickers,
So it was like on the back of the stickers or something, and then you
Yes.
could write to Lisa Frank or like do mail order stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it seems simple, but it's a good call to action.
But sometimes the most simple things are the most genius ideas.
Totally.
Because we try and do too much when sometimes it's just the most simple, basic things that,
and it gets through to people.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need like elaborate things.
Marketing,
so, okay, you have anything else from the first
No,
one?
we can move on.
So let's just we're already here talking about his self. I already said my emotions about him, but I thought it was super interesting. Like, as you watch the documentary, then you hear from his son, and then they talk about how close they are. But one of the first things Frank said was, I didn't want to be a dad. He's
He
like,
did.
They were like, and I mean, I get it, but also like, they were like, did you want to have kids? He's like, no. And I mean, I get it, but also, I don't know.
Now
the way
that you
he
do,
said it,
yeah,
because
I get it.
I mean, when I was a young, now that you did, and supposedly you and your son are best friends, which that's something else to talk about. But I just like, I know when I was younger, I didn't think I was gonna have kids. Like, I just thought I wasn't one of those little girls who was like, I can't wait to be a mom. And then obviously I changed my mind.
Yeah.
And then we had one kid. I was like, I'm done. I don't want any more. And I said that and then changed my mind. So I think it's different. But I mean, I would never sit there and be like, but maybe it's editing.
I just thought about that. It was out of context.
Because if you recorded me right now saying that.
Right. But we didn't put anything in that you've just said.
Correct.
And all we took was you saying, I didn't want to be a mom.
Right.
No way.
Right. So maybe that's it.
Then it's like, well, that's rude.
So
she
now,
has 2 sons. I hope they don't hear it.
Right. So
I think the editing on that was a little much. I honestly, and again, this is the humanizing of him that I thought happened over the course of this series. I think he seems like a really good dad. He really does. And I don't know.
I don't know though.
Even in the pictures. So but they had the pictures of like Lisa with the boys, and it all looked very performative, and they were like not near each other when she would have them in an embrace. They'd be kind of stepped out from her.
I didn't
But
notice.
everything with him, they were like on his lap, sitting right next to him, and he just had this look on his face of just like joy.
I don't
And
know,
she
though.
looked kind of like, eh.
I don't know. I didn't like how, though, he was like that with the one kid, but not the other.
Yeah.
And he said, like, well, Hunter, or maybe it was Hunter, the son, who said, like, I was with my dad, Forrest was with her. It's almost like he picked one.
Well, what I couldn't figure out was it sounded like they were required by law to stay with their mom. This was after the divorce.
Which usually happens in courts.
It does, especially now. Not,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It did.
Especially then.
Yeah, I mean,
now
it's not as
now it's not.
yeah,
now
it's not.
they favor
Thank goodness.
50-50 in all situations,
Which
unless
they
you
should.
can prove there's a reason not to.
Right.
But back then, that's how it was. So it sounded like he, being Hunter, the older boy, took the extra step to go live with his dad, whereas like Forrest maybe didn't.
Well, and Forrest was younger.
He was younger.
So
he didn't have the same memories of his dad living with them.
Also, you have a different childhood than your sibling.
Yes.
You may share a family and a house, but like, especially like my sister and I talk about that all the time, especially because we have a big age gap. And like my kids too, they have almost 6 years between them. They have different parents. Like it's a different environment.
Right.
So who knows? And Forrest didn't. Katie's texting for those of y'all who can't.
Sorry, my daughter has to be somewhere, so I need to make sure that.
Speaking of parenting, that's why I said that.
My husband's out of town for work, which is fine. It's just he never is gone.
Right.
He's always here. So we have 4 drivers in our house, but we have 3 cars.
Right.
So he has a car. I have a car because I'm here. And then my son has a car. But my daughter, who can drive but doesn't have a car, needs to be somewhere.
Right.
So I've asked my son to take her. And if there was a reason he couldn't that I wasn't aware of, I would have to like leave like right now. But he just said he can take her. So we're good now.
5 kids, guys. That's what happens.
And then there's, 3 more just chilling at home. I hope they're
okay. But anyway,
I
say that because Katie is always she's always on duty for
more so right now with my husband out of town.
Yeah, I understand that. That was the life I lived for a long time. Anywho's back to it.
Yeah, I think the divorce thing, I think that the way that was explained too was very indicative of the times. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen now. But the whole mom gets the priority for having the kids with her, and dad gets every other weekend, which if you think about it, that's 2 out of every 14 days that you're with your children. Can you even imagine that?
Yes, because my parents were divorced.
But that was a standard.
It was. And I just think about, like, as a child of divorce, and so is my husband, it's hard. Even if the divorce is needed, like my parents and his parents should not have continued to be married. Like, I think they held on as long as they could for whatever reason it was, but they did not need to be married. And that happens. But it is traumatic for everyone. Like I can remember, like, and so in my case, my dad moved out and we stayed in the house that I grew up in because I was 9, 10-ish. But he would come pick us up for like his weekend, and I never wanted to go because it was just depressing.
Right.
And I'm sure that was so hard for him. Like I would scream and cry. Like, can you imagine your kid being like, I don't want to go spend time with you? Yeah. And it wasn't that. It was just everything felt so foreign and weird. And like my stuff wasn't there. And like I didn't really want to go because it just was just this. And plus, well, other things, but it was just like, I just imagine, like, for kids it's traumatic, for parents it's traumatic. It's just traumatic. It's just a hard,
and I think
it's a hard thing
that they really showed that well in this.
Yeah.
And the effects of it still linger.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the older one, it seems like lives with
the dad,
James, now they're in Mexico. Is that where they were?
I think that's where he said. They're out
Mexico.
Of the country. Yeah.
And then, I mean, I assume Forrest is a grown person at this point, but him and his mom are still close wherever they are. And it's this many years. I mean, they're both grown adults, and this is still the case. In the final episode, James said something. He said, that Hunter's my best friend or whatever. And he said, Forrest is a work in progress.
Ugh.
And it's just, and that I felt the sadness in that, like that it's unfortunate to him.
Yeah.
And so, and again, for her, she didn't come on the
I
documentary.
know.
And I feel like that hurt her
Oh, yeah.
because I'm sitting here talking about this man who people have said was terrible, is whatever,
Well, and he was.
padlocked the doors, and he was.
That does not
And I'm
erase it.
saying, but I felt like he was humanized a little. I can't say that about
Right.
her
We
because there
know
was
it
nothing.
just her blank statement. That was like,
Right.
whatever. Well, here's the thing. So let's talk about her. So what do we think the deal is with her? Like, I wrote this down. I was like, what's her deal? Like, I said she wasn't the greatest either, because in my research for our other episode, I didn't have any of this stuff on her. It was mostly the stuff that was out there was about him.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really talk much about
We didn't.
her being, and I'm like, it seems to me like they both have some like issues, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe mental health for her. I think for her, there's some kind of mental health trauma stuff untreated from who knows what.
Yep.
But then I was like, are we being fed a different narrative now? Like what? I don't know. Like it's
who's
like, what's the deal?
Well,
and like,
yeah.
why her silence? Is it just because she has social anxiety? Is it just because she has control issues and doesn't want her words? Like, what is it? Like,
Yeah.
so what do you think her deal is?
That's a great question. And again, like you were saying about the different employees saying what James did, I think this documentary had it's told from so many different perspectives,
Yeah.
that it did make me realize that she's got a pattern
Mm-hmm.
of stealing other people's things.
Yeah.
Not giving people either regular credit or financial credit for it.
Yeah.
And it's a pattern that dates back to when she was
yeah.
buying things on the reservations and
Right.
reselling it with a markup. You know, all that work James did, she managed somehow in court to fight him long enough that he didn't get any of that or his original artwork, which to me, some of that's rightfully his.
Yeah.
And then, this is later on, but we might as well talk about it now. We get into other creators who, again, didn't know these things about her necessarily, who wanted to collaborate with her. Glamour Dolls, right?
Yeah.
This makeup
company,
makeup startup. And then Tassel Fairy.
Yeah.
And how she just takes and takes and takes, and then turns around and is like, what? Like art is owned by everyone. Like you don't own this idea, or turns it around like she did in her divorce, which I know is common for divorce, to make him look so bad. And then the Glamour Dolls thing, which we'll get into, making it look like they were the issue.
Yeah.
And then Tassel Fairy basically saying, well, I didn't, how would I know what your ideas are?
Yeah.
When she has documentation that her ideas were stolen.
Right.
And it's so many different sources and over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
That to me, it does add up to she's doing these things.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, but what do you think? Like, I guess what my question was like, what do you think the root of it is?
I don't know.
Like, what's her deal?
You said, is it imposter syndrome?
I don't know. Like, I feel like she definitely has control issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's definitely greedy and
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel like there's like this other weird, like, she doesn't know how to connect with people authentically. So I don't know what that means. Like, I still feel, for me, I'm always like, it all comes back to untreated mental health things. That's what I always think it
probably is.
And like, because it just, like, I don't know what, because obviously I'm not a mental health professional. But like, he was a mess. Oh, let's talk about, like, he's a mess, but I feel like
being James.
Yeah,
okay.
he was a mess. But then when she got back in charge after he was gone, it was still a mess.
Correct.
So like, he made it a mess, but then she also kept it being a mess, and then it got even worse.
It sounded too to me, and I can, oh my gosh, I can relate to this so much, that she might have a disorganization disorder.
Oh yeah.
Because particularly when he left the company and it was all on her, which is what she thought she wanted, it sounded like she couldn't organize around what needed to be done. So production really slowed.
Which, again, that is also untreated mental health stuff.
Totally. Yeah. Like, that's a problem that I have. You know, I get so overwhelmed and it stacks and stacks and stacks, and then like nothing gets done or whatever. And that's something I have to work on. It's something I'm aware of and I deal with and handle and treat and all the things. But maybe she has something like that, and then it affects her relationships too.
Right. Which, speaking of relationships, I feel bad for the kid because he comes off like an ass, But I also wonder if what narrative he was fed by the dad, because that's who
Mm.
he was with. Like, now granted, he has his formative memories,
Mhm.
but it's interesting when you talk about memories because not everything we remember is factual.
Right.
It's I think I like listened to Malcolm Gladwell do a podcast series about that or something, or maybe it was one of his books about how even something we remember, somebody else could remember totally different.
Yes.
So then where's the truth? Is somewhere in
That's what
between.
they say about eyewitness accounts.
Yeah. We talked about that with true crime or whatever.
Yeah, that you can't really rely on them because 5 different people will say something different.
Yeah.
And they're not lying.
Yeah.
It's how they remember it.
Yeah. And I feel bad for him because I feel like he comes off kind of like, but like he came from, parents who didn't have a healthy relationship, that affects you. I don't know what narrative he was being fed by the dad,
Right.
because like my mom, when she was angry, and I'm sure she probably regrets some of the stuff she said, but she would tell me, stuff about my dad, like when I was a young kid, and I would carry that into whatever.
Yeah, and when you interacted with him,
And I mean,
it was there.
I mean, listen, I'm an adult who makes mistakes constantly. And so I'm not going to like throw a bunch of hate towards my mom. Like, she's doing the best she could, but also like she did tell me like nasty things about my dad. Like, well, he's selfish and he's that and blah, blah. Like, really, you should keep like that to yourself.
And I think there's a lot more awareness around that too. And I'm not just saying, I know it still happens because like I've seen it in action just in families we know.
Right.
But I do think overall the narrative that you really need to keep the adult stuff to the adults and the kids stuff to the kids, and that really what's best for your kids, unless a parent is actually unsafe.
Correct.
Is for them to think highly of both parents. That is better for them.
Correct.
And their mental health.
And now granted, like you're saying, obviously if there's an unsafe situation, that is something
that's
totally different.
Like if your dad comes to pick you up from school, don't get in the car with him. He is unsafe and probably drunk and doing drugs
or whatever. Yeah.
If that's the case. Right. But also
like,
otherwise.
I think too, like, I also think you should be honest with kids. I think they deserve truth.
That's true.
But also truth they can handle. Right. And understand.
Well, and I think it comes back to intent. Is your intention to give your child the truth,
right,
because you would like them to process it, or is your intention spite or anger or hate? Because then it's not coming from the right place, and that's hard. I mean, trust me.
Like, yeah,
it's hard to deal with those emotions, and especially a divorce that maybe you don't want, or maybe you want it, but the conditions surrounding it aren't great.
Yeah,
I think that it's hard. We're human.
It is.
But yeah, I was also thinking too with Hunter, the older of the two, who is close with the dad, but really annoyed with his mom at the moment, who his mom has sued him. I just think that's kind of funny.
Wild.
So he had to take down like some of his videos because she's threatened a lawsuit.
Well, she likes to sue people. Oh God, please don't come after us. We have nothing.
We have not. I mean, they can sue us. Then we'll get like,
you'll be sad because we ain't got nothing.
They'll get nothing. I got the vibe that he resents his mom for his dad leaving.
Yeah.
And that he's never dealt with that.
Yeah.
And it might be as simple as that.
Yeah.
And
well, and what do you feel? Okay. My ears always perk up when I hear.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the ears on your outfit.
My ears
which
perk
are
up.
Perked. And just when you said that, I was like, yeah,
my ears
they really,
perk up.
They really do.
When parents or kids say my dad or my mom is my best friend. I don't know how you feel about that. I just feel like, and he's an adult now, but still, like, your parent should be your parent and love you, and you can have a friendship, but like your best friend should probably not be your parent. I just think that like blurs lines when you're younger. Now, he's an adult.
I think when you're an adult, it's okay.
I don't know.
I really do. I mean,
and maybe that's just my own trauma speaking, everyone.
I think when you become peers, and you're never full peers because you're not of the same generation, it's different. You know, I've spoken before about how my mom has early onset Alzheimer's, and we were very parent and child growing up, very much, even in college, and really weren't close. She was fine. I was a good kid. No issues, but like we were not close ever. And there's some things in her past that I've learned about as an adult, and things that kind of have made me feel better about our relationship. Because I'm like, she is for whatever reasons. And when I became a mom, our whole relationship did shift, and changed from sometimes I talk to my mom, but like I just do my own thing and she does her own thing, to like how you feel about a best friend. I want to tell her all the things. I want to send her all the pictures, not just of my kid, but like of what I'm doing. And she would, when I lived in Chicago with my baby, she would come over and she would spend the night. And I would say we were getting to, I mean, best friend, I don't know if best friend is right or if it would just be I'm really close with my parent as a friend, but it did feel more like a friendship. And one of my biggest moments of grief has been because we had kind of a and then we had a wow, this is how it can be, and that it ended so quickly after that discovery. And so to me, I think it's possible, and it doesn't bother me, especially in that adult setting.
I don't know. I guess because for me, maybe because I'm not super close with my mom, like I love my mom, like she's, but I would never say we had like a peer. And like I don't think I'm just laughing because I'm remembering something my son said, my oldest son said to my husband like 2 days ago.
Oh God.
Because he said he didn't like to talk to us about stuff because it always is like this big drawn out process. And he said, y'all are never just chill. But like I'm as a parent of a teenager.
Well, no, you're not. You're
no,
never chill.
I like it. It's just a hard balance when your kid's 18 and still living at home.
Yeah.
But like
that's a tricky spot.
You're still a kid though. Like who pays all your bills? Mm-hmm. You still have a lot of growing up to do. You haven't left yet. Like you still need parenting, even though legally you could go to jail as an adult.
You could. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I totally
So anyway,
do.
I was just thinking about that because like I guess like I'd never want my kid, like, you know, I see it with like teenagers and parents where I find it to be problematic when they act more like friends, like parents that like allow their kids to do things maybe they not a great idea. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
I guess I'd rather I don't know. It's to me, it's always like a little, I wouldn't say it's a red flag. I wouldn't say it's a green flag. I say it's a beige flag where I'm like,
okay.
I'm always just like, whenever I hear a parent or a kid saying like, oh, my mom or my dad is my best friend, I'm always like,
I think it depends on the age.
And maybe because too, I like when I think of friends, like also like if your husband's your best friend, great. My husband is not my best friend. He's my husband. Like, I just feel like it's a whole different level of partnership, like of relationship.
It's a deeper relationship.
Correct.
Than that. Yeah. It's a partnership.
And I need to have best friend outside of my marriage. Like I need a best friend outside of my kid. I don't know.
I get that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I will say I could see one day Cooper referring to you as his best friend.
I don't think so.
I could see it.
I mean,
that's her younger son. He's 12.
Especially not right now because I am
not now, but I think in like 10 to 15 years.
I don't know.
I could see
so.
it.
I don't think so. I mean, I love my kids. They're great.
Yeah.
And I hope that even with all like the rocky stuff, and apparently we're not chill and you can't talk to us because it takes us a week to make decisions. I hope eventually they do feel comfortable. And like that like really bothered my husband. Like he was like,
oh,
because you want your kids to want to talk to you. And we try, like, we both come from like broken marriages and like traumatic things. Like we try so hard to not do the things that we didn't enjoy from our parents. Like we try really hard and it's like, we're still fucking up. Like, well, you know what I mean? It's like, we try so hard and then you know, those moments as a parent where you're like, shit, like I still messed it up. So it's just, he was having one of those moments. Right. Yeah. And it's like one of those times, but anyway,
no, I feel you.
Moving on from, did you look how funny that is.
You look like a little cat. You got to do it like this.
I did.
Because you're a leopard. There it is. Now we've
For y'all that are just listening to us and you don't see the video, you just need to go look it up. I'm doing weird things with my hands and I
love it.
Cat-like.
You're
anyway,
you're me.
Also, let's just flip the script and talk about something else that's not sad. Although this whole thing is sad. The Factory. If I could have seen it in its heyday.
It's in Tucson.
I know.
Tucson, Arizona. It's interesting because it's a very modern shape. It's just like this giant square. It's almost like a block, a full block, but it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's everything you would think a Lisa Frank factory or warehouse would be. It's beautiful, kind of colorful glass on the outside, and then when you go inside, it's like Lisa Frank like spewed everywhere, like the colors, the rainbows, the unicorns. And I thought that it was a very, at least what they showed in the documentary, very modern look inside too, like very clean.
It'd be like if our podcast had a company. That's what it would look like.
Honestly.
Like for reals.
You know what's funny that you said that? When I was watching the Tassel Fairy part of this, it was someone who decorated her whole apartment in Lisa Frank style. I was like, if we ever have a dedicated studio, it needs to be like paint the cupboards hot pink, like a leopard print table. I was like dreaming it up. I was like, oh yes. Same.
So let's jump into all that then, because we're moving into like the last episode, which is where they talk about all of this.
Let me quickly interject, because we didn't say anything about Rondi yet.
Oh God, she got on my damn nerves. Did she get on your nerves?
Yes and no. Again, they humanized her toward the end with me. And do you know how? Do you remember the part that maybe would have made me like?
It made me roll my eyes.
Really?
Where he said, "Are you tired?" That part
when her husband came in. Yeah,
it made me roll my eyes.
Oh,
that's my own trauma.
So real quick, we don't have to spend a lot of time on her. Rondi was like, I think the singular HR person there,
which is wild.
Yeah,
for a big company.
And so she was there during the heyday, well over a decade, etc. And she was known as the enforcer.
Yeah.
So if mostly James, but sometimes Lisa didn't like something, whether it was your drawing, whether it was because you left at a normal time because you're diabetic and needed food, or whatever it was, they wouldn't come to you.
Right.
Rondi would call you to her office.
Rondi?
Wasn't it Rondi?
It was Rhonda, I thought.
Oh, James called her Rondi.
Was it Rondi?
I think it was.
I wrote Rhonda.
Well, whoever she is, let me see.
I'm like, as you said that, I was like, wait a second.
Let me look.
I thought it was Rhonda.
Well, either way, so that
what?
You all don't have to wait for us. She was the Rondi Coots, Rondi, the senior.
Rondi?
Oh no, Rondi's the designer. Rondi's this one. I can't.
Okay.
She's not the enforcer. She's the other one. She was the senior designer with the cute
all right.
hair.
So just to clarify, everyone, there's a Rhonda. Yes,
that was her name, Rhonda. Okay.
There is a Rhonda.
Sorry,
and there's
everyone.
a Rondi.
Okay. That was where I got confused. Rondi was a senior designer.
She was a designer, yeah.
And seemed really cool, by the way. Yeah. I liked her. And Rhonda was the enforcer. Sorry, Rondi.
All right,
we're not the enforcer.
We got it now.
But either way, she's the HR person. And so she fired a lot of people. So in the documentary, she looks so much bigger of an age gap from her pictures than everybody else.
Yeah.
But she did say that toward the end of her time there, she was having seizures and having stress-related health problems. And anyway, so she seemed oblivious to the fact that people called her the enforcer and that like people didn't like her. Did you get that read from her?
No.
She's like, they would say things like,
I don't know if she was oblivious.
Maybe
like they asked her, but I think she was like, I went and did my job. I think she just chose not to
feed into that.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a part where, so the other part of it is there were rumors that her and James were having an affair, which they both deny. It's never been proven.
I also am like, I hate that that's always we always have to pull that into it. Like you always got to assume there's an affair happening. If there's a, like,
do you think there was?
No, I don't think
either.
So I honestly don't. I mean, he was sleazy and yuck, but I don't think there was.
I don't think there was either.
Because I feel like that's always the fallback.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's even come up in our Dawson's Creek stuff. Like you always assume because this and that. Like, can we just not? Maybe
it doesn't have to be sexual.
Like maybe they just had this work relationship, and she was like his right hand man to fire people and do all the bullshit.
Yeah, and he probably appreciated her and was nice to her.
Yeah,
and not nice to other people.
To her. Right? Which happens.
Sure,
with people in power, right?
Of course, and she's doing his dirty work.
Correct. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So. But there was a part in the documentary, and then we'll move on to the fourth episode.
The other stuff,
where they asked Rhonda about the affair. They're like, oh, there's these rumors you guys had this. And she kind of teared up. She got upset.
Yeah.
She said, no, like there was never an affair, 100%. So then you see her husband, who also looks older. They both looked at least in their 70s. Walks in kind of slowly and is like, "Are you okay? Are you getting tired?" She kind of grabs
She
his
goes,
hand.
"I'm always tired."
Yeah.
That got on my nerves. And here's why. That's my own trauma speaking, everyone.
Yes.
Because I just felt like that was so like dramatic, like just playing into like, oh, poor me. And I feel because I have people in my life who do that, and they're like, well, the husband's like, "Are you okay? Are you getting like you can't handle the interview?" Like whatever he came in there for, because he heard her getting, "Are you okay? Are you tired?" She's like, "Oh, I'm always tired." It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, okay. Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know what you mean.
I'm sorry. Like
No,
I just
that's another.
and granted, I don't know her chronic health issues. She only spoke about the anxiety related stuff when she left the company. I don't know if she's battling some stuff. That's my own trauma speaking, but I just rolled my eyes and I was like,
Right.
okay.
Like maybe the husband knows more than obviously we saw. Maybe there is something that would have been, maybe they'd been interviewing her for 3 hours at that point. I mean, who knows?
But
we don't see all that.
But
I
just,
get what you
for
mean.
me, I was just like, really? Okay. Like,
well, and she had gotten, it was right when she got really worked up. She mentioned how she'd been married for 50 years or something.
But also too, like I was already irritated with her. So like I'm already annoyed. And then that happened. I was like, like,
yeah.
Like she just got on my nerves, just the way she was talking about stuff.
Yeah.
She bothered me. I don't know.
I get it. I get it.
She bothered me.
All right, moving on from the enforcer.
All right, so the last episode was about creators,
small
independent creators.
Who we love and
oh my god. Okay, but
yes,
what was interesting was the beginning of that episode. The lady who was part of the Glamour Dolls company said nostalgia is big business.
Yep.
I was like, girl, preach. It so is. Because I mean, hello, that's what our whole podcast is about. We ain't got big business, but
right.
Maybe one day. But it is big business because so why do you think that is? Why do you think nostalgia is big business?
Well, particularly for the 90s. I think it's because everyone who has that nostalgia is our age, and we are at the age, not everyone, and this is coming from a place of privilege, that we can buy the things. And we want our kids to know about the things.
Yeah.
And so therefore, and with social media, people are, and podcasting and things like that, people are reminding us of those things constantly.
I think nostalgia is big business because no matter what decade it is, it reminds you of something, right? And I feel like people who are the biggest, well, no, that's not true. I was going to say the biggest components of people who love nostalgia are like middle-aged or older, but that's not true because younger people also like the nostalgia because it's cool. Like it's retro.
Absolutely.
Right? Because when I was in high school, I was like obsessed with like the 60s, right? That was retro to me. Like I loved wearing bell bottoms and all that stuff and like hippie culture and all of that.
Totally.
And so I feel like because nostalgia, you miss the idea of something, but like the reality was shit was still problematic, but it reminds you of like probably an easier time or what you think was an easier time.
Definitely. And nostalgia is usually the fun stuff. It's the leopard print onesies.
It's the highlights
the stickers
of that time.
The music.
Yeah, it's the highlights
the fashion,
of the time, not like the bullshit.
It's not like the political turmoil or the recession that happened or whatever, it's those things. And so I think so. I mean, I think that's why it's big business. And if you can pull at someone's heartstrings, whether that's nostalgia or whether it's not, but you're able to make some emotional connection.
Yeah.
People who love Disney, you're able to, which is a lot of people, including people in this room.
I love Disney.
I was looking at your Belle cup and that's what made me think of it. Her Belle coffee mug. But I think that if you can pull on their heartstrings, who cares if they already have one Belle mug, you do another Belle mug, and this one's got a little bit different, you pull on something different, you're going to buy another one.
Right.
And that's, I think, how nostalgia is too.
Right.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the Glamour Dolls. Oh my God.
Okay, so first of all, if you haven't watched it yet, Glamour Dolls was a startup makeup company. Was. And they're animal or cruelty free and vegan. And so they were it's two people. Peter, why can't I think of her name?
I don't know.
I'm going to just call her Rondi. Just kidding.
No.
I'm teasing.
Anyway, they had a male and a female.
Yeah.
co-owner
who
creators.
seemed like good friends and got along great. They weren't friends until they were working
and
on
we
the
won't go
business.
into all the details because watch the documentary to see.
Totally.
But it basically was, like Katie was saying, a makeup company. And they were getting pretty big, like
on their own,
but everything was affordable.
Yes.
And they had an idea because they were kind of young and hip and cool. They had an idea to collaborate with Lisa Frank.
They were like, how would, whatever happened to Lisa Frank? How do we get hold of her? They said they just went online and looked up public records.
So funny.
And they just kept calling
random numbers.
And then someone answered and the guy was like, is this Lisa Frank?
Totally what I would do if I called somebody. Hello? Is this Lisa Frank?
But all of that, eventually they did get in contact with her.
And go ahead, sorry.
And so like they were thrilled because she seemed interested in collaborating with them.
Collaborating and they did a Kickstarter.
Yes.
Right. So she found the Kickstarter, right? And she even was like helping them advertise. Like she wrote a letter to like the Kickstarter people. But oh my God, you guys, the products.
I want them.
If this would have happened, it would have fucking blown up because they made so much money with that Kickstarter campaign showing the prototypes for these makeup. Basically, it was all these makeup products that they were going to make that were Lisa Frank themed, and they were bangers.
They were so cute.
So cute. And I was like, how did I miss this? Like, how did I should have wrote down what year it was because I was probably having babies or something.
I want to say it was 2017.
Was it that close?
Yeah. I think so because they were getting into like the people wanted it delivered in 2018 is when it was supposed to be delivered. Okay. And then that's when like all the trouble started. So essentially they do a Kickstarter, which so they raise all this money. And what happened was if you've never used Kickstarter, if you donate money to something new, a new idea, then usually you get something in exchange. So if it's an author, for example, you would get a signed copy of the book when it's done. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they had all these different tiers. If you pay $20, you'll get this like lip gloss. If you pay $40, I'm totally paraphrasing, you get this makeup bag or whatever. So they raised, what is it, like $500,000? Was it $500,000? I don't know. It was a lot. Enough to start manufacturing. Well, and again, this is the makeup side's story because Lisa Frank didn't come on and tell hers, but they did have a lot of documentation they showed. And there's court records with this documentation too. Essentially, Lisa was excited at first and demanded quarterly payments from them, starting with
out fucking outrageous.
Yeah, it was like started at like $100,000, but then when a year went by, she renewed it for $250,000 every quarter, and she was dragging her feet. So she would, in the contract, it said she had to approve all the designs. So she kept sending the stuff back, so they could never go to manufacturing because she would want that again, according to Glamour Dolls,
right.
To the point, and then like the girl who was designing like really cute stuff, she eventually told the guy, I don't want her on communication anymore. I don't want to deal with her, etc. To the point, so they just keep paying her every quarter, but nothing's getting manufactured.
Right, and this goes on
over a year because they renewed.
It
was about a year and a half because they said they made the $250,000 payment when it went up at the beginning of whatever year it was. I want to say it's like 2018 or 19, and then they got an email from her staff or lawyers or whatever for the second quarter that said she would not communicate with them anymore till they made that payment.
Yeah.
They made the payment and she ended the contract.
Fucking crazy.
So it's over almost $1 million that they gave her for nothing. Like nothing was ever made.
Nothing happened. And something I thought was interesting that they were talking about, she was like, your fans are literally begging for you to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Lisa Frank is tone deaf when it comes to that. Like, she's not worried about the people who love her company and the work. She's not. I honestly don't think she cares or is listening, because if she was, and I don't think she's a very good businesswoman. Obviously, she's greedy.
She's not, and that could come back to that disorganized, whatever. That the ideas are there, but tying it to the business component, she just can't get there.
Yeah, because I think like if you are smart, you listen to what your consumers want. And she would have made bank. Mm-hmm. But I think she was pissed because she didn't want somebody. Like, I think this is me. This is Danny's opinion, everyone. Don't sue me. Don't cover me. So I think she probably saw like their ideas and thought it was great, but then realized how much money they were going to make as well as her. And she didn't like it. That's what I think.
Or the control issue, like you said, which is similar to what you're saying.
Thing. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what it comes down. In fact, I wrote that down. Like Lisa Frank seemed not to work well with anyone. Control issues. Like,
100%.
and holy shit, those poor Glamour Dolls people. She ruined their business, ruined their life.
And they were, then of course, nothing was ever manufactured.
Right.
So all the fans come for them. And then Lisa Frank Inc.
sued them,
took it one step further and released a statement basically saying that it was all Glamour Dolls' fault, that they didn't live up to any of the things that they were supposed to do. So of course everyone, because they
Lisa Frank
believes her,
right,
or her company,
the company, yeah.
And so they've been suing each other back and forth. I think it's still going, but I hope that they get something out of it, because
I know,
and their company went bankrupt,
right,
which sucks,
and they
because
personally have had financial problems.
Oh yeah, personally, like he was saying, he had to move in with a friend for a while.
Well,
and you can tell they're very talented designers, business people, whatever.
Well, their ideas were amazing. And I mean, so good. As a business owner, and I mean, I technically am one too, but not in the same way Katie is. But like, you put so much of your own money, you have to get money in return eventually, you hope.
Correct.
And so for them, I can't even, can you imagine seeing all this money come in from Kickstarter, people being so excited about your ideas, and then it's all gone?
Yeah.
It's like not only gone, but now you are in big time red.
And all of it just went to Lisa Frank for nothing.
For real.
And nothing was ever made.
They already had some court cases dismissed. They even have had documentation. It just goes to show you what wins in this company. I mean, in this country. Money and power and greed, always.
And the people with the big lawyers.
People
or
in
the
power
lawyer budget.
Just take over.
So that was one group of creators.
Yeah. And
then the one at the end just killed me. So they go by Amina, and then their handle's like Tassel Fairy or something like that because of their hair, which was so fun.
No, it was because of what they create tassels as art.
Oh, okay. I thought they mentioned their hair at one point. Anyways, either way, it's
she has a whole. I keep saying she. I apologize. Sorry, I was like rewinding in my head, because Amina did say at the end of her time on the documentary that they preferred to go by.
And that was toward the end.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So I in my notes, I kept writing she when I was technically wrong. So I apologize, everyone. We're fixing that right now. So yeah, Amina was saying that that's where she, crap, I'm doing it again because I wrote it. Look,
because you're reading your notes. Yeah. You're reading your notes.
Don't look. That's where she got the, guys, this is just proof that we have no professional editing. The Tassel Fairy came about because of the art
that Amina does. Yes. So Amina has this very bright, fun, cool pattern aesthetic. And I wouldn't even say it's Lisa Frank aesthetic. It is bright. Well, and there were rainbows and stuff, but it was definitely their own.
Right.
Style.
And like they said, like Lisa Frank don't own rainbows.
No.
Or unicorns or bright colors.
No, not at all.
Or whatever. And Amina named their apartment Cloudland. Hello.
I love that.
I wrote, if I lived by myself, that is what I would want my living space to look like.
Seriously. Like, it was so awesome. So it was an apartment. I didn't catch what city they lived in.
I didn't either.
But it was somewhere relatively urban. Yeah. And so not a huge apartment, but every inch, every space was a different design. And Amina hand painted everything, and then would go live, not live, but would record and show different parts, and people loved it. And so other people were saying things like, oh, I love it, Lisa Frank vibe, things like that. And then Lisa Frank started commenting.
Yeah.
Well, the official handle.
Who knows who it was?
We love it.
Which probably may have been her. Who knows?
It could have been. It could have been. And so Amina, of course, was very flattered by this.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us, not really knowing much about it. And then all of a sudden, Lisa Frank kind of stopped commenting, which, whatever. People don't always comment on everything. And then Hotels.com announced a partnership with Lisa Frank Inc.
Also, how did I miss that?
I know, I missed it too.
We're so out of it.
And they shared all these pictures of, it was like an apartment you could rent for the night. That was a Lisa Frank apartment, and it was across the street from where Amina lived.
Was it?
Did you catch that?
I did not.
Amina said it was in the building across the street from me.
Whoa.
Isn't that nuts?
And it looked so much like her apartment.
And so Amina posted some side by sides, things like the kitchen cabinets and stuff like that. And of course, they weren't exactly the same.
But you could definitely tell it was.
Yeah. And again, and so people are freaking out. This is the coolest thing. And we're going to stay there for $200 a night or whatever it was. I mean, it was affordable, whatever, like relatively.
Yeah.
But so of course, like Amina went on and was doing lives and talking about it and mentioned that there were some people that were like, well, you stole from Lisa Frank, and you know how you're always going to get on the internet. But honestly, when you saw that stuff side by side, it was crazy. And then Lisa Frank Inc. took it a step further during 2020 when a lot of people put up the black square on Instagram.
She did performative allyship, everyone.
Yes,
which
Lisa
we
Frank
discussed
did
on our last episode.
And so Amina called Lisa Frank Inc. out in their own videos and basically said, you know, how you going to do that when you literally stole from a black creator? And so then of course Lisa Frank comes out with this like ridiculous vague statement. Oh, it's unfortunate this opportunistic individual is da 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 da. And it's like, no, you're the opportunist individual.
Correct. You are sitting there saying you stand for Black Lives Matter and for passing the mic and honoring voices who are unheard. Yet you're just stealing from them and not even. And then not only are you stealing from them, you're insulting them and lying about it as well. I literally was so, I was already irritated, but then when I saw that, it made me so, because I remember in 2020, all these companies, and I like jumping on the bandwagon here I'm not saying it's bad or wrong, but I would question all of them, and I'd be like, let's see where you are. Like, here we are, 2025. Let's see if you're still saying these things. Because guess what? A lot of companies are not.
Well, I just saw this morning, Target had that DEI initiative for products. Without getting too in the weeds on it, but like a deliberate approach
intention,
and they've ended it. And I saw a creator who wrote about that because her stuff has been in Target, and I think they're like not only discontinuing it, but like not buying from some of those people
when
anymore.
You have somebody in power in our country getting rid of diversity and inclusion, everything,
then I guess you do too.
And it's gross. There are some big companies that are pushing back against it. I saw Costco was one. But,
good.
Yeah, but anyway, we said we were.
But that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me.
Yeah, for real.
That I was kind of like, okay,
gross.
Indigenous art.
Yeah, gross. Cultural
appropriation, and making money off someone else's art.
Correct.
Even like the James Green / other employee stuff.
Yep.
Using their creativity and art of other people.
Yep.
With literally your name stamped on it.
Yep.
And then the Glamour Dolls stuff, and then the Tassel Fairy Amina stuff. And then I was like, this is too much. This is sucks. Like, because it's such a happy, cheery, fun brand that makes you feel so good about yourself. But it's sort of like when you know better, you do better. And I'm like thinking to myself, at least the way that it stands now.
Yeah.
Unless the company sold to someone else and they do things differently, which I don't think is going to happen.
I thought I remembered when I did research for our episode, her younger son, Forrest.
I think you're right.
But they never said that in this documentary.
They didn't. That was weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to get sued. Maybe there's something there that's not allowed to be published. I don't know. But thankfully, as you mentioned earlier in the episode, there's lots of, for lack of a better term, sort of knockoff things. And Lisa Frank doesn't own rainbows or unicorns or whatever.
Facts.
And so we can still enjoy the bright colors and the aesthetic and cute animals and unicorns and rainbows and all the things, but not give our money to that. I mean, I'm not going to.
I know.
Unless
It's
something
so hard.
changes.
It's like, I don't support Chick-fil-A as a company, but sometimes I go get those waffle fries, guys.
You know,
Like, I can be a hypocrite ally, and I will say that. I'm going to admit that. And I try really hard not to. I really do. And it's just like Amazon. Like, I try not to use Amazon.
Right.
I really try to support local, but sometimes I got to go on Amazon because I can't get it anywhere else. It's so I think that though this one is pretty easy to not support,
right?
Because she does not. And so is waffle fries, by the way, guys. I'm calling
those
myself
two
on
both. Amazon's the harder one.
Keep me accountable here.
Yeah.
I also anyway, that's the oh no, this is what I wanted to say. Speaking of that hotels.com thing, I have had this idea and I'm trademarking it right now, so nobody steal this from me. Ever since I watched Schitt's Creek years ago, and they like redid the whole motel.
Yeah.
I have wanted to buy a motel, like a beachside motel here in Florida somewhere, and call it the Rainbow Connection. Hold on. It's so good.
I'm waiting.
And each room is like a different color. Like you could stay in the red room. Or, I mean, obviously there'd be multiple, but like a little small, fun. And not only that, but it would be called the Rainbow Connection, and it would be very inclusive and supportive of LGBTQ events, all the things. But I mean, rainbow
adorable
connection. Every room's different color, and I mean everything in the room is that color.
I love that. You have like different textures, different fabrics.
Yeah, but everything
curtains,
is red.
whatever.
You go in the red room, it's red. You go in the yellow room, everything's yellow, which would be a little trippy.
It might be,
depending on the color.
And then you could have a lobby that's just rainbow everything.
Yeah, everything. And then like, the beach little pool,
or if
beach
there's a
furniture
pool,
will be rainbow everything. Girl, I'm gonna do it one day.
I love that idea.
I'm good with ideas, but my business accoutrement.
No, I think you could do it.
I don't think so.
And there are some beachside motels around here that could use a little makeover.
If anybody has a lot of money and you're good with business things, I'll come give you ideas.
Honestly, yes, Danny can do all the things, all the planning, all the marketing, part, all the stuff. But as far as like actually purchasing the property and the insurance and all that, if we can find someone to be a silent partner, how about that? Who just wants the money once it starts rolling in.
Well, I need somebody to manage the business side of things. I will come and do the painting, the decorating, the fun things that I'm good at. Ooh,
you need a business manager.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe that's your next job years from now.
Maybe. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. When you retire from all these other jobs.
I would just need a pink room that I could go in and just sit sometimes. Maybe a pink office.
Yeah.
That would work.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's neither here nor there. So what else do you have?
That's kind of
my last sentence was lame ass vague statement at the end. That's my last sentence.
What was the lame? Oh, from Lisa.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
They put it at the end of every episode.
But it was essentially, let me see if I can paraphrase. Thank you to all our wonderful fans and all the enthusiasm for Lisa Frank Inc. during the years. We'll continue to make great products, and thanks again, or something like that.
Good paraphrase.
Something
my
like that.
paraphrase would be blah, 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 bullshit.
It was didn't address anything in the documentary.
No.
Didn't say sorry, not that they would.
Specific. Yeah.
Nothing specific. And again, I think she probably missed out on a little bit of an opportunity not being humanized in this. But I mean, why would she start now?
Well, because she probably doesn't think she did anything wrong.
Yeah.
Katie,
do you think that she's going to watch this? Or do you think just like her lawyers will watch it?
Because I think that she doesn't think she's a problem, and that I think probably one of her things is that it's everybody else, not her. But I feel like James Green is that way too. I feel he's the same way. I feel like he's like everybody else is a problem, not me.
Agree.
I think she's the same way.
I just feel like, and I mean, not everyone is very self-aware. I'm sure I'm not very often.
Me either.
But how could she, let's say she watched it. Let's say she watched it from beginning to end. How could a person watch that and not see the problematic things they've done?
Well,
you think it's possible?
If you have untreated mental health stuff, I do think it's possible.
And also, she also knows beyond what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Which
Well, right.
again,
We don't know her
so
side.
so maybe as soon as she would see someone saying something about the toxic workplace, she would automatically go to, oh, but they didn't talk about this, this, or this, and all the charity work I did, or like,
Right.
So maybe she'd immediately go to that defensive position.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. If you are someone, for whatever reason, has a victim mentality, you will always find a reason to put it off of you.
100%.
So,
yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
Well, it was kind of a bummer. It was very interesting, though.
It was. It was eye-opening. It was eye-opening.
It definitely brought up a lot. Yes, the nostalgia aspect, and when we revisit nostalgia, we see problems a lot.
Oh yeah.
Capitalism for sure.
Oh man.
Just this idea of independent art and how it can really be appropriated for other things. Family dynamics, just everything. It was all in one. Oh, anyway.
All right, so we're at the end of our episode. There's something new we're going to start doing.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you about that real quick, and then we're going to end our episode.
Do we quickly want to talk about the thing I said to stick around for?
Maybe we should talk about. Oh, well, how long have we been chatting?
We've been chatting a long time. Let's hour 20.
Woo!
5 minutes or less before we do the final thing.
So, all right.
Just because I said at the top we would.
You did. You're right. Good job. Good job remembering.
I remembered.
I'm like, let's do our last fun thing. Okay, so Katie and I, when we went to Podfest, we did not go to any of like the after parties or whatever. We had wine over dinner at 6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock.
Well, we met some people there while we were doing that. But we went up to our room and I said, Katie, there's this movie that I am dying to watch. And I feel like I need to watch it with like a friend, like another woman, like not my husband. It's called The Substance. It's with Demi Moore. It's a horror film, but it has social commentary and it also has comedy, as dark comedy.
Definitely.
Oh my God. Y'all need to go watch it now.
It was great.
It was so good. It was so powerful. The acting, chef's kiss.
Yeah,
from
everyone.
Cinematography, so great. The special effects. All I'm going to say is blood hose. We were so here for it.
I was laughing, not because I thought it was funny. It was a little funny. The people getting sprayed in blood.
Don't say.
Okay, well, it was a little funny, but it was more just like I'd never seen anything like that before, and I didn't know how to act as a viewer.
I think that's what they wanted. Yeah. Like it was such genius filmmaking on so many levels, and I absolutely adore that it's getting recognized because horror films hardly ever get recognized for award stuff.
Yeah,
and it's fascinating and wonderful. And guys, we'll have more to say about it at
we will.
Later
and
date.
Demi Moore already won the Golden Globe for Best Actress and was just nominated for Best Actress for an Oscar. So we'll see what happens.
Was the director nominated?
I believe
really
so.
Hope so.
Yeah, I believe so.
But it was just so good. Y'all need to go watch it.
Go watch it, and we had fun watching it.
We did, and it was funny though the way we had to watch it because we thought we'd be able to just rent it on the hotel TV, which we couldn't. And then I was like, oh, wait, I can like mirror cast it from my laptop. We couldn't. So we ended up being in the bed next to each other with the laptop on a pillow, scooted closely so I could hear it and see it.
Yeah.
Eating our popcorn and drinking our wine and M&M. Well, we weren't drinking M&Ms. We were eating the M&Ms, eating the popcorn, drinking wine.
With this little laptop screen watching it.
So anyway, it was great.
We made it work. It was like once we said we were going to watch it, we were going to make it happen.
We were like
the TV didn't work, about the mirroring didn't work. We were just like, we're just going to watch it on the laptop.
And
we're
Katie
making
did not
it work.
fall asleep.
I didn't. That was weird.
It was way past your bedtime.
Way.
And she had been up a really long time.
Yeah. Weird. It was great though. Okay. All right. So tell everyone what we're going to do at the end of every episode.
End of every episode. Instead of us trying to come up with quippy little sentences that we usually fail at greatly, we are going to do trivia questions because we know you guys love trivia. We're going to do, I have an 80s one. All right. I think we should do one of each decade.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick 80s today. You do 90s. We have our nice little game. We have the Hella 90s game. And then I bought the 80s one that goes along with it called like totally 80s. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So I'm going to pull one from 80s.
Okay.
And Katie's going to pull one from 90s. Make
Sounds
sure
good.
you pull it from where it says draw card here so Troy can continue to be proud of us.
I've got it.
All right, Katie. What pop star does this belong to? I'm going to explain it to you guys. It is it looks like a giant belt buckle that says boy toy.
Is it George Michael?
Considering he lived in the closet a long time.
Oh.
No, I think it's Madonna. Am I
Really?
right? Yeah, it's Madonna.
Oh, and is it a belt buckle?
Yeah. She had a belt buckle that said boy
show
toy.
YouTube really quick.
Okay, YouTube, can you see that?
Yeah. I guess I didn't know.
I did. Yay me. All right.
All right. Mine also has an illustration, so I'm going to describe it before you answer for the people listening.
I love that you said George Michael.
I don't know why I said that.
Poor George
Didn't
Michael.
people call him that?
I'm sure they did, but I don't think he wore
just
a belt
in my
buckle.
circles. Okay. In the 90s, so don't guess until I describe what it is, what phrase would accompany this dismissive gesture? And it's a woman with her head turned to the side and her hand up facing out.
Talk to the hand.
Oh, it's the wrong way. Yep. Wait, what? Oh, it's from the other side. There we go. I was doing it right. Talk to the hand. And what's the second part of that phrase? Talk to the hand.
There's a second part?
You don't know the second part?
No.
Talk to the hand because the face don't understand.
Oh, I was going to say because the face don't listen.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it properly?
Talk to the hand because the face don't understand.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, well, you got to start saying it just this week.
So boy toy, belt buckles.
And talk to the hand.
Oh my God, but what if George Michael did have a belt buckle that said that and I'm wrong? We're going to look it up. But Madonna had one. I'm
probably wrong, but you never know.
I know.
Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I know it was a long one. Hopefully even if you had to listen to a few sessions, thanks for listening. And make sure you tune in for our Dawson's Creek listen, re-listen, and our bonus episodes over on Patreon.
Woo-woo!
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.